Welcome back to Astrology. Having seen sun signs, we now move on to the subject proper of medical astrology.
The subject proper. Let me take you to the basics. Because there are certain postulates in astrology. You have to understand the fundamentals of astrology and treat medical astrology parallel to the concepts enshrined in the basic astrological studies. Of course, we have seen the sun signs, which is something not particular to the Indian method of dealing with the subject. But henceforth, we are going deep into the traditional Hindu astrology. The ideal horoscope is one where there are no planets. See, the moment you see planets, you have to do a lot of calculations, observe them, study their relations, and then come to terms with the kind of disease or ailment one might suffer from, and also see what he might have suffered in the previous births. When you divide the horoscope into three, you see the present birth from the ascendant, the previous in the next sector, and the four signs, the 12 by 3 into four signs. And again, the last ones, which represent your possible future life cycle. Most of us think that we have one life and maybe another. We tend to forget that we are inside a life cycle, not just a birth. A life cycle has several births. So which life cycle you're running is something which can be seen in a horoscope. So we carry the maladies of the previous life cycles, and whatever we do now to remove those maladies also has an impact on what we are going to be in the next life cycle. And diseases are part of all this. There was one gentleman who went to see an ophthalmologist, and the doctor tried all kinds of lenses. This man was not satisfied. He was saying, I still have some blurred vision somewhere. The doctor gave him just a glass frame without any lens and asked him, how does this help you? He said, Doctor, this is the best I have. The point is, if you see a horoscope, then finally we have to attribute certain features of health. Like, we have the vata, that is wind, pitta, which is bile, and kapha, which is flood. That's how Ayurveda divides the humors, right? Now we divide the planets like this: Moon, Chandra, Mercury, Buddha, Venus, Shukra, and Saturn, Shani represent Vata or Pitta. Sun and Mars, Ravi and Kuja represent Pitta, that is Fire. And Jupiter, Guru represents Kapha, that is Light. But they are not just specific and exclusive, they can interchange depending on the situation. The Moon, Venus, and Sun have also slightly Kapha qualities. Saturn and Jupiter have slightly Pitta qualities, while Mercury has slightly Pitta and Kapha qualities as well. So it is the discretion and the ingenuity of the astrologer who goes into various combinations and arrives at a good diagnosis. Now there are 12 houses. Now, when I am talking about houses, it starts from the ascendant. Now, mind you, the ascendant, the lagna, is everything. It has a minuscule of all the 12 houses, which means that the lagna per se is talking to you about the previous, present, and the future life cycles as well. So it is a complete potential of the person. It straight away represents the person, and that is precisely why. Even I was telling you earlier, when tallying the horoscope, if you are not really understanding the lagna and other combinations of the horoscope, you end up making blanks. So now, the first house is the lagna, and let me tell you what these houses represent in a human body. Because in astrology, the 12 signs represent the sequential parts of the Prana Purusha. That is, time is taken as an embodiment of a human being. The first house or lagna, it represents the head, brain, and the mind. The second house represents the face, eyes, nose, and tongue. Now look at this: head, brain, and mind. That comes from the first house, the lagna. The second one, face, eyes, nose, and tongue. The third house represents the neck, throat, collarbones, hands, breathing, ears, and bodily fluids. The second house also represents teeth, ears, fingers, and nails. Suddenly, an astrologer would look at the horoscope and say, "You have sun in the second house, okay, there is problem for your eyes." When the sun represents the right eye, you would say your right eye is having a problem, so go to a doctor. I have done this myself. I always said somebody came up with a horoscope. I said, "See, your daughter is having a scar in her right eye, or some sort of funny growth in the right eye." She said, "Yes." So that is predicted from planets positioned in various houses. The third house, I said, neck, throat, collarbones, hands, breathing, ears, and bodily growth. The third house is afflicted. The person might be having problems breathing. The breathing is not proper, so you would suggest pranayama for that person. The fourth house, yes, heart, lungs, chest, and blood.
This is more.
What is not important? If somebody has a problem breathing, you would say, "Yeah,
Frequently, many will have problems with it.
yeah." You're talking about the average person. The majority of people who have such situation, it is treated like an emergency. They're the most dreaded ones.
Yes.
And so the heart, lungs, chest, and blood, that comes from. All these come from the fourth house. The fourth natural house is Cancer. Rakata. The owner is Moon. So let me just briefly tell you how the cardiac arrest is predicted. In fact, the doctor can tell you what you're suffering from or what you're likely to suffer from. A good astrologer, a seasoned astrologer can tell you that during so and so time you are certain to suffer from so and so situation. Because it is a holistic approach. Now, even when the blood tests are all normal, breathing is normal, sugar levels are normal, everything is perfect, the heart is too good. Have we not seen people suffering sudden cardiac arrest? See, I'm not defying the medical science, it's a great science. Science has done great advances. Point here is, though treated as occult, astrology goes to a great length in bringing down a lot of things to concrete terms. Okay. If this were not to be true, why would so many people study astrology and believe in astrology? Isn't it? See, any science which is helpful, or any study which is helpful, is science. isn't it?
Yes.
Now, I was just referring to prediction of the heart issues. Now, the moon, the natural significator of the fourth sign, joining Saturn, or the combination of Ravi and Shani in the fourth house. Now, this is pure mathematics. It's not just the fourth house. Now, the Lagna may be something Lagna from Lagna to the fourth house. Done. That is one way of looking at things. Again, the fourth house from where Ravi is there. And again, the fourth house from where Moon is there. Moon is the natural significant of the fourth house. And again, the fourth house from the sixth house. The sixth house, per se, is the house of health and diseases. So, it is a permutation. It's like a factorial. Because in maths, you have a factorial concept. You say 4 factorial, it is 4 into 3, 2 into 1. That is 4 factorial. So, if you are talking about the heart, lungs, chest, and blood, now see, pulmonology, cardiology, blood, for instance, microbiology, and of course, all of the diseases. What is there? What is there left out? Chest and blood. The blood is purified in the lungs. Now you have a clear connection between lungs and the heart. Isn't it? That is why the pulmonologists and the cardiologists, they are next door neighbors. You can't be isolated. Astrology doesn't separate certain studies. It has a holistic approach. Now there is such a combination of Moon and Saturn, or Moon and Rahu, so Rahu and Saturn, or Rahu and Shani, or Shani and Sun. There is an opposition between the planets, and there is something known as a malefic situation. So, the functioning of either lungs or heart is taken to be not up to the mark. Yeah, supposing in a transition or in a transit, that is a current planetary configuration, which is known as a transit or gochar. That is, you go by the Panchangam this year 2022, the planets are revolving, they are there in certain signs. Now, when they are moving around and your fourth sign from the moon is afflicted by Saturn or Rahu, and somebody says, yeah, you better be careful with your heart this year. That's how the prediction is done. And
Transit is also taken
yeah,
into
transit, yes, and transition. By suppose your birth, when you at birth, you have the time of your birth, you have a constellation. You know, Vinshoktari Dasha, you are running a certain planetary period, a Mahar Dasha and a Buddhi and an Antar Dasha and all. Supposing during that particular year you are reaching a Dasha where Saturn and Sun, or Moon and Saturn, or the planet afflicted in your fourth house is giving you the Dasha now. Then the astrologer will say, yeah, you be careful with your heart and lungs. Somebody was asking me, how was this corona classified? Because that is related directly to the lungs. Of course, I'll come to that later. You know, we have just said, have made a great announcement, we are into the basics. Right? If I start that, people would get confused. But I will deliberate on that. Let me go to the fifth house. The upper abdomen and mind. The upper abdomen and mind. Suppose the fifth house is having an affliction, Saturn or Rahu or some planet which is a large problem, even Jupiter might create trouble there. Digestion is slow, the person is constipated, and a lot of acidity and all that. And the mind also suffers if the fifth house is afflicted with Saturn or Mars, or sometimes even a planet like Ketu can do some havoc there. Because fifth house is a house for mind and the upper belly part. It's very funny when you look at it. You may ask me, "Arey yaar, how is the upper belly and mind connected? Upper belly connected to the mind? They are totally way apart." But most people, some of the best doctors will agree, that psychology plays a great part in curing a disease. When the patient is self-confident, is truly really he has that confidence in the doctor, and if he has a mindset which is really good, it's easy for the doctor to cure any disease for them, any damn disease. It's just not a stomach upset. Mind you, if you are stressed out, your mind is always thinking about something. Isn't that contributing to acidity? Your digestion will suffer if you are anxious about something. How is that happening? Where is the connection? But in medical science, it is true. That is established in astrology, right? The sixth house, lower abdomen, navel, bones, flesh, and mental faculties. We talked about mind in the fifth house in a larger context, but in the sixth house, we talk about the mental faculties. Because the way a person works, the attitude and the approach. Somebody might take 10 days for a small job, somebody might take just 1 day. Or somebody might approach it differently. Somebody might say, yeah, he might calculate even without using a pen and paper and say, this is how it is, this is how it is. So finally, like in the movie Titanic, if you remember, the captain of the ship inquires from the navigation engineer after water seeps into the ship. Yeah, tell me, what is going to happen? I want that in just clear cut terms. The dialogue I liked was the navigation engineer says, in 2 hours from now, it's a mathematical certainty that this ship will sink. Reflect on this dialogue. The professional person has studied every minutest detail, and he is giving an advice to the captain who is supposed to steer the ship along and reduce damage. He has said, see, he has conveyed the time interval which is available. That is just 2 hours from now, the ship will sink. There are no ifs and buts. He is certain that the ship is going to sink. The time at your disposal is 2 hours. So whatever you want to do, you have to do it. The captain immediately rushes out because he doesn't have 1 minute to waste. So the Titanic movie was so great because it had so many such examples I can quote. So mental faculties. Your health is a reflection of your true mental faculties and vice versa. Suppose you are conducting a meeting. The chairman of the meeting is constipated. He has a problem. He is not going to understand anything. A lot of people will be giving a lot of PowerPoint presentations, doing this, that, this, selling stuff, this. So we did that. The chairman will say, yeah, next. He's going to run away from the meeting, right? So the approach, your relaxed approach or your approach in anxiety, they are all decided from the sixth house that is connected to the mental faculties. And of course, flesh and mental faculties. And sometimes you see people who are bony, unlike bony couple. And some people will be having a lot of flesh, there is a fullness of figure. And we also have bones, navel, and lower abdomen. 9th house we said upper abdomen, and below the navel, the lower abdomen is a very important part, especially for the females, because this is where the concept of conception happens. So that's a different study. We'll come to that later. And the seventh house. See, in astrology, we always know the seventh house is very important for studying marriage, partnerships, friendships, this, that. And that represents groins, semen, female organs, and breathing. look at this. We had breathing in the third house and again breathing in the seventh house. A person's ability to correlate himself with the opposite gender is decided by the seventh house. And in fact, groins and other organs which are studied by the gynecologists, and of course even the male organs that are properly developed is there that adrenaline and the ability to perform that is decided in the seventh house. I can tell you while talking about this just as an example. Of course, it's a bit sensitive, but I have to do it because uh, we're almost talking about the physiology and anatomy, so there can't be any sensitivities, especially when it affects somebody's life. Right? There were two horoscopes which were brought for tallying. They were perfectly tallied, but I advise the person not to get into an alliance. The horoscope represented a male. He said, "Why? Okay, having heard this from you, I'm not going to proceed. But you're telling me that they are talented, but you don't want this person." I said, "You may make some inquiries because astrology at the end of the day is not treated as concrete science. I suspect a problem of impotency, and there can be psychological ramifications over people. Let me tell you, it turned out that that boy was rejected by many people, wanted many girls. He was already married, but then the problem with that fellow was he has been getting married just for the sake of it. He has become a psychic. See, psychic nature and sadism and impotency, all of them go together. The psychiatrist can tell you that. So they just can't take it for granted that this guy is not supposed to get married. They will deceive a lot of girls on that. Now, coming back to the tallying of horoscopes, here is a very valid issue. You remember when we were discussing this?
You said we see only tallying and other things.
Yeah, that's one area. I said astrologers who simply pick up the panchangam and say the stars are okay, and the kind of gunamaranam and the pranas are okay. You don't see the horoscope. You for tallying. You don't study the horoscope.
This will not.
This would have passed for tallying. Even the horoscope would have really passed for that.
Yes.
But mind you, somebody has come to you seeking genuine advice in order to take a life decision. Can you subject the whole thing to simple mathematical jargon? Saying out of 27 constellations, you count from this and you got so many numbers. What is married life all about? It's a complex, much complicated area. You can't simply decide on such silly things. Okay, the eighth house. We have the genital organs, urine, and blood. Again, blood is. That's what I'm telling you.
It's in the fourth house.
Yes. Again, blood. Because astrology is not saying that blood is available only in a particular organ. And urine. See, people. Somebody can say the eighth house is having an affliction. Then one has to be careful about the injuries to the genital organs or some malfunctioning of the genital organs that is directly related to marriage. Ninth house, the thighs and limbs. The ninth house. 10th house represents the knees, bones, and flesh again.
Yes. It's in the
Yeah,
sixth house.
yeah. Now 11th house, the stance and breathing again.
Mm.
Now the 11th house is an encompassing house. Supposing somebody says, "Yeah, I'm not concerned about what I'm going to suffer from. I'm sure that I'm going to suffer from a lot of diseases. I've already suffered from them. Tell me one area from where I can start my what is that house? I would say it is the 11th house. Even it is strong. Yes, you have an answer for all your problems in the 11th house. That is why here you have breathing. Notice pranayama. It is a direct, the exercise. One great exercise. This keeps you off from several dimensions. 12th house, Pisces, because it represents feet and again blood.
Blood will go in three
See,
houses.
yes, blood will be permeating everywhere. Because astrology defines the way blood breathes, the way blood is taking oxygen and transmitting it. There are a lot of science in that. And basically, having said this, the planets are working both for building up and destroying the body, mind you.
Mm.
Because astrological age is what? 120 years, not 60. So the planetary periods, they start from Ketu to go up to Buddha, it counts up to 120 years. So at the age of 60, you are halfway through. That is why Shashti-Purti is performed. But people don't live beyond a certain age. But if you must understand that the planets will be helpful when the decaying starts. Because even at the time of birth, even at the time of speaking, the body is producing cells and certain cells are dying. Now, when the number of cells which are being reproduced is more than the number of cells which are dying every moment, you are growing. If both are equal, you are 60. When the number of cells which are dying is more, you are decaying, you are aging. So, breathing and pranayama, there are certain exercises which help you to sustain the number of cells which are growing, or at least they ensure that the blood supply to these cells is normal, and that helps you sustain good health. Doing a little bit of medical science. So the planets are working both for building up and destroying the body, and they have different activities and functions over it. So this is the division, I said of the houses, but then how they are interspersed and how they are read in isolation and how whole thing is done is again a great study and elaborate one. We'll go into that later. So let us move on to the next aspect of this episode.
That is one question and one answer.
Now, one question and one answer.
Now we have spoken regarding these houses and diseases and all these things. A simple question is, what is the desirable planetary position for a disease-free life?
You mean to say
Yes.
because there must be an exception
Yes.
in the form of the planetary configuration, which says, okay, I'm overruling this.
Yes.
So a desirable or an ideal situation. Yes, back to the sun, moon, and ascendant. A horoscope where the lagna, Ravi or sun, and moon, that is Chandra, that is your Rashi. Lagna, Ravi, moon. Or if moon and Ravi and Lagna are in the same position, it's a different issue. It's also possible. Are not afflicted. That means they are not aspected by malefic planets like Saturn or Venus or Rahu, or there is no association. Then that person is capable of preventing and also curing a lot of diseases, even if they occur.
Okay.
Now, the cure will be slow if these three are afflicted in one or the other way. So, the medical astrologer would always look at the sun, moon, and ascendant, Lagna,
Sun.
Ravi, and Chandra, and see if there is any affliction to one of them or all of them. That determines the quality of life. That is, whether he has a healthy life or an unhealthy life. There is one more. The 11th house is well placed. There is a very forcible planet like Jupiter, Guru, or Ravi in the 11th house. Then,
Just now you said.
yeah, I said. So that helps in preventing a lot of disease. And quick cure in the person generally is of a very strong nature.
In the 11th house, where?
Guru or Ravi or both. So that is a situation where the person is he takes care of a lot of things. And he just doesn't even bother. His mental state is also always very mature and very strong. So that is another combination. We will see some more as we progress. But today, I think this is more than enough. We'll go on to medical astrology and further basics in the next episode.